Welcome to Take Note Academy Online. I'm Martha, and today I'm joined with the founders of Keep Hush. Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Would you each like to introduce yourselves?
Yes, I'm Fred, and I'm the founder of Keep Hush. Do you want me to say more on that?
I'm Freddy. I'm the other co-founder of Keep Hush. I joined a bit later than Fred. Fred kind of originally started it, but yeah, we've known each other for like 7 years now.
Yep, we met
I
over the
feel
internet.
where did you meet?
Over the internet.
Oh, okay.
Over the internet.
Yeah, match.com.
So I think most people that tune in to watch us today are going to be aware of Keep Hush, but I would just be curious to hear how you guys describe it in your own words.
That's a good question.
We've always really struggled to describe what Keep Hush is. And I guess what we used to call it was a community-driven music platform.
I think before that it was like members club and music platform. Which I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense and it's not very catchy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's a good question. We used to just kind of describe what we did, which was like we had this community that we called members, and we live stream artists every week, and the kind of community come along and watch that online or in person.
Yeah, I guess we can say we're now changing our focus behind the scenes, so that we're now going to be supporting independent artists, and that's where we're going forward from a few weeks' time.
Yeah, so if you ask us that in a month, it'll be different.
Okay, well, we'll have to do this again in a month for the update. But looking back over what you've done so far, do you each have like a favourite moment that you guys have facilitated in terms of a musical moment?
Yes, there's always one that I go back to, and that's the White Peach takeover that we did in Soho. That was a big moment for us because we used to just do streams with friends and get all our friends to come down and watch, and then managed to get all these professionals like Flo Dan, Killer P, Ira, got them all down. Off. It was amazing event, and we got chucked out the next day, which was also pretty memorable. And
I think that was the moment that we felt like this was just moving on from like being a fun project and into like just, I don't know, like an interesting movement, an interesting platform, because it was like how we don't really understand how that happened, but that was a real moment of like, geez, this is really happening now.
It was a good moment.
I think, yeah, I think for me, we did our own pop-up venue just before lockdown. In fact, it got cut short by lockdown. We called it Secret Location, which was a joke that no one seems to have got other than us, which sucks. But yeah, so we did that, and I think like it was very much always our dream to like build a really strong community, basically, of artists and people that run events and people that write for magazines or photographers and stuff like that. And even though we did events every week, we kind of said that we felt like we had that community, but we never quite got to see it in that way. So the Secret Location kind of whole month was curated. Well, it was programmed from proposals by the community. And so we put it together really quickly, and it was all just ideas that were sent in to us. And that was like, we basically achieved that like community goal that we kind of always had. And I think, yeah, I'll always remember that we worked way too hard that month, and it was horrible in so many ways. Like, yeah, I think I'll always remember it as like a pinnacle of that.
Yeah.
So what's it like for someone who's watching this, who has kind of discovered you guys maybe during lockdown and hasn't made it to an event? What would you hope that the experience would be like of attending a Keep Hush event?
Yeah, we actually spoke to a lot of people so I can give you a really clear answer, because once we went into lockdown, we'll go into that more later on, but we've actually just spoken to loads of people in our community about it. And I know it sounds like a buzzword that I keep going on about, but like there's a really strong sense of community at the events. So because they're in the evenings on weekdays, it kind of changes like why people are there. Even though they are often in like clubs or bars, it's less like you would be on a Friday, Saturday night where you're in a big group and you want to get drunk or whatever you do. It's much more like you're only going to be going there if you're really interested in the artists or you want to connect with the other people that are there. And it's green. The lights are all green. So that's what to expect. It's not just a video effect. It's just all green.
Pretty much every time we go to Keep Hush.
That's the main thing, the distinctive thing, the green light. So how would you describe the ethos behind Keep Hush? And also, like, what were your intentions when you first started out?
I think when I first started as a blog, it was always to promote music. And then we met, Freddy used to write for the blog, and we got talking about community. And we were inspired by stories like Big Apple Records, Paradise Garage, all these places that managed to build these really amazing communities. So that's something we set out to do just when I moved back to London, and we got together and talked about stuff.
Yeah, because I was from Bristol originally, but like I went off to uni and I hadn't really got involved as much as I would have liked with different music communities. And then obviously you look at like Fred said, Big Apple Records, and you read stories about stuff like that, and you feel like everyone's like, oh my God, I wish that I had been there for something like that. It seemed so kind of pure and so organic. So it seemed like a quite kind of weird thing to like set out and try and do, because you can't force something like that. But I think it was when we kind of got access to the basement that we started streaming in, like even though we wanted to create that community and we're trying to think of ways to do it, it kind of just started happening organically, just because of the like format of the events and just the artists that we were bringing into the space. So I think we kind of almost accidentally or at least very organically started to build that community, which was our main intention, really. And then it really has snowballed, I guess, over the years. So yeah, our attentions have definitely developed. And then in the past few months, they've developed quite massively, basically, in terms of what we want to do in the whole music world.
Yeah.
Are you going to tell us those intentions, or to stay tuned?
Yeah, we are. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we can go into them now if you want.
I would just be curious as to hear how those intentions have kind of evolved as you've grown.
Yeah, I mean, so I think when we first started, well, first of all, we now have this amazing community in London. So we have a blueprint for maybe doing that in other cities. But we also kind of, yeah, I think lockdown has really shaken up the music industry a lot. And when we started Keep Hush, we hadn't worked anywhere like in the music industry. And we actually still just learning about the music industry, which probably sounds silly that we would not know loads about the music industry, but yeah, we just ran this kind of crazy thing. And yeah, I think since lockdown, it really took apart a lot of problems that are in the music industry, especially to do with artists. Artists obviously lost their touring revenue at the very start, and we felt a lot of pain from artists, like, you know, whether it's just on social media or artists we're speaking to, about how much that's going to affect them. And basically for some of them, it might even just like end their careers short. And I think that we basically were kind of looking at our model and how our model worked, and thinking that potentially our model is not like it's not the role we want to have in the music industry as a whole. So we look at things like Bandcamp and we're like, wow, they've really carved out something that is really beneficial to artists. And we were following a direction more like maybe like Boiler Room or NTS, these kind of like platform models where you work with brands, and that's really good, and that brings money into the music scene sometimes, but as a whole, the platform isn't always able to financially reward the people that are contributing to it.
Yeah.
That was a really tough kind of realization for us, because we were just like, shit, we're like part of the problem, not part of the solution right now. And then kind of almost fortuitously I mean, I don't want to say lockdown is like a good thing, or the pandemic rather than lockdown has been a good thing, but like it's given us for the first time since we started it, like time to just really reflect on Keep Hush and what we've built so far. And then we're like, what kind of role do we want to have? Do we want to support artists? Like, yes, obviously we do. So we need to like think of a new way of working and a new way of thinking that allows us to do that basically going forward.
Yeah, I think that's amazing that you've actually been able to like harness some of the energy of the like change that's been kind of in the air. Because I mean, for a lot of people, lockdown will have just been like, it's exhausting to even do anything or create or imagine what things are going to be like when they like start up again. So that's like exciting and promising. Have you had thoughts about how you're going to sort of put that into action?
Yes.
Yeah. I feel like we shouldn't go into that, but we are going to be making sure that artists get paid, and money from outside the music ecosystem is going into the music ecosystem, and that's our main aim now.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, because I think to the outside, to like a typical Keep Hush fan, we're basically going to be launching some new cool stuff for them to like get involved with. Behind the scenes, it's been really a big shift about just like, how we approach basically every decision that we make. Because in a way, we didn't have like a strategy about that kind of thing before either. Like we were doing this mad thing. We were like, cool, we can do projects with brands, and we're really proud of all the projects with brands we've done. But we're also like, obviously you look at the way that Bandcamp have kind of opened up. I don't know, we actually think Bandcamp is like flawed in some ways. So a big focus of ours is how we can get money into the ecosystem, because sometimes with Bandcamp, it feels like the only people using it sometimes are like other artists, which is like really, and it's a really awesome vibe. But I don't think it ends there. I think we've got to figure out ways to get like people that consume music and just fans of artists spending more in ways that are going to benefit artists.
Yeah.
We're not gonna try and beat Spotify, by the way. Can't solve that. We've learned a lot about that kind of thing, and it's
not gonna happen.
No. When you guys started out, did you have like a kind of longer term plan, or has it been more of a thing of just seeing how it goes and adapting?
Yes, we've never really had a long-term plan. We were really lucky at the beginning, when it was a blog. The building that we were working in fact, we were working in that building because we were cleaning up an office, and then they suddenly said to us half a year down the line that they're opening up a basement. So we were like, okay, that's great. We can go down there and start streaming artists. But that was never part of our plan. That opened up. That meant that we were able to stream, and then when we got chucked out, we just kept going in clubs and developed and worked out new ways that we could benefit the community, and worked out more ways that we could keep the thing going, because we were constantly trying to keep it going, keep ourselves going.
I think we could see that like Just Jam, Boiler Room, NTS, Mixmag, like have found ways to support themselves. So even though we might not have had specific long-term plans, we were like, if these platforms have been able to work it out, then presumably we will be able to as well.
Yeah.
And did you look into like securing funding, like Arts Council funding, that kind of thing?
We've won Arts Council funding once for a project that we haven't been able to deliver yet because we won it in like December and then lockdown happened. To be honest, in the early days, no. That was the first funding we'd ever got, and that was late last year, basically.
Mm.
Other than like the brand projects we've done, which have been more like standalone projects than funding what we were doing already.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for people who are trying to secure that type of funding for their venture?
Yeah, do it way sooner than we did. It took us 3 years to finish our Arts Council funding application, and we got an answer within 4 weeks that was yes, and we were just like, why the hell didn't we do that sooner? Like, that's so good.
I think you need to. I think we didn't realise that there's so much help out there. If you go and ask one of the people that work for Arts Council, they will help you all the way through. I think it's in their interest to get you that funding.
Yeah.
Which we didn't realise. We just had it saved and never did it. We were too scared to do it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally call Arts Council up and they will, especially, I mean, I'm assuming they treat everyone the same, but especially if you're like a young person with doing a young business, they literally assign someone to help you through the whole process.
That is really good to know, because I feel like it can be a little bit of like a faceless thing when you're starting
Definitely.
out.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can literally call them. That's really good to know.
Yeah.
So what happens from there? Did you have to structure like a pitch and work out a budget and that kind of thing?
Yeah, the application is really long, which I think is what's off-putting and why we spent so long on it, especially like when there's 3 of us looking at it and like disagreeing on how to write things. To be fair, once we contacted Arts Council, they were just like, just bloody put this application in, like it's fine, probably. Like, just get on with it. So yeah, I think they've got this whole massive guide on their website that takes you through every question. But again, I would just say like I think we sent it to Arts Council before we technically even applied, and they didn't like go over the whole thing with a red pen or whatever, but they were able to kind of guide like what aspects of the project they were most interested in. And yeah, like, yeah. And and if you get rejected, you can apply again. Like there's no penalty to being rejected, and then you'll get even more feedback if you get rejected. So again, it's just like, even if you get it to a level where you're just like vaguely happy with the thing, you should just send it off and then get it back and keep working on it.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for how to communicate an idea that's maybe like, I don't know, resonates more within your community, but it's kind of harder to pitch to someone external? How do you get that across in words?
You do have to learn to play the game, but then you can do that by, they give you a lot of material to work from. So you're kind of almost just reusing sentences that they give in that material, like back to them. So like, definitely the project that we got funding for is called Technics and Chill, which is like it's an open decks and open mic event that we used to run it years ago, and it's not really viable to run without funding. So we basically left it until we could get funding. And definitely the way I talk about it in the application is not how I'd naturally talk about it. Like, you know, we talk about it. It is a talent development program, but I wouldn't call it that to like the average person. Like, it just sounds boring, doesn't it? Like, you don't want to go, what? So yeah, I think use the materials and repeat the materials back to them. And that's the kind of easiest way to do it.
Right. So you sort of have to reflect their language and their energy.
Yeah, definitely.
So taking things back to when you were first growing, how did you go about building that community online?
How do we build online? I think we didn't focus on building an online community. our focus was always offline, trying to get people in a space and promote the artists. So our online community grew very slowly. It's taken us 5 years to kind of get to where we are now. And it only started to snowball about a year ago. But we have never focused on trying to strategically grow our online community. So I don't know, I think we would always say just grow slowly and organically. That's the best thing to do.
I think when we very started, we thought more about this stuff, about like how are we going to grow like social media following, or how are we going to like build the community like in a numbers sense. But like as we just started, it just becomes really clear that a community is just going to form around it's like good that's happening. So I think with the way that we operate, there's a feeling amongst artists and like hardcore fans and journalists, whatever, that this is a good thing in the underground music scene. And then the community forms around that just organically. Like you can't just put people in a room and be like, be a community now. Like it's, yeah, force fun, organized fun. So yeah, take it slow, basically.
I mean, these days we are working on ways to build our communities online. And one of the main ways we did it recently was by doing a pop-up, and that got loads of engagement online. So we are trying to work on ways now to grow our online community. But
yeah, I think one of the side effects of us taking more of a break in lockdown has been that it's been harder for our community to stay connected during this time. So we are looking at ways in the future as well of making sure there's like much more clear like online place that our community can stay connected.
Yeah. So are you aware of having to sort of adapt to like really maintain that online presence since the start of lockdown?
Yeah, well, yeah, we we launched what was it called, Freddy?
Isolation location.
And that was a go at trying to connect our audience and promote music. And it didn't really work that well. And I think because everyone was trying to do it. So going forward, we are going to create a Discord, and that will be a way of getting our online community online. And we'll probably think of other ways as well.
Yeah, I think that we found, I think it was almost the opposite of how you put it, Martha, where we didn't feel that pressured. So like, because basically as soon as lockdown happened, like everyone was doing live streams, and we were like, okay, cool. Like our live streams are better, but like, I think this is almost a good time for us to, again, just like sit back a bit and work out what we really want to do, like in now and in the future.
Sweet. That's a really good approach, I think. Do you have any advice for people who are on kind of the other side of that and they're thinking that they've not sort of been doing enough in lockdown in relation to like forwarding their business venture?
We literally, the first thing we did was we literally took a break, I think we took 2 weeks of not speaking to each other, and we all came back with like the same ideas, which was really awesome. But yeah, like don't feel bad about not being productive enough. Basically, like you have to give yourself space and time to come up with creative things, and like the situation as it is right now is not, I don't know, I can definitely imagine feeling really pressured to be like constantly doing content or constantly like trying to adapt or evolve. You don't even need to change what you're doing or adapt or evolve. Like, yeah, I don't know. I think we all become quite insular in this situation, and maybe it can make us just question what we're doing in our whole lives, like way more than we normally would. But I think just allow yourself to take a break, and some kind of inspiration might come from that.
It's that's
also fine.
That was Freddie's idea to take a break, and I I was definitely anti it at the beginning, and it was the best thing that we ever did. Just disengaging from everything.
Yeah, I think it's like a very unique opportunity to do that. And since there has been a break in like the live music environment, I think we're starting to see the whole music industry and kind of beyond music, entertainment and things like theatre and that, shifting and having more space for making positive change.
Definitely.
And obviously there's like a lot of opportunity that comes with that to sort of update and kind of innovate. So what kind of shifts in the music industry have you guys been most aware of?
I mean, yeah, so I learned loads about how Spotify and other streaming platforms work when we first took our break. And I mean, if I'm not sure what the numbers are actually, I'm hoping that there's some sort of shift towards Bandcamp. But like, yeah, I think just becoming really aware of how artists are not kind of compensated enough for what they're delivering. And I think the core problem of that really is that obviously fans used to like buy music, like CDs or whatever, and they were quite expensive. And then we had music piracy, which killed that. And then now we have streaming, but like the idea of spending £6 a month and having like every single song ever made and you can listen to it an unlimited amount of times is like nuts, but it's still better than everyone stealing it, which was what they were doing 10 years before that. So I think that's something that really like triggered a lot of thoughts for me in terms of like how could we build things that bring more money from fans to artists, because fans want to support their artists. But in terms of actually listening to the music, they have this crazy product like Spotify or whatever they use that's just such good value. So we need to figure out. Anyway, so we're launching stuff, and I have to be a bit coy about it, but we're looking at ways for people to support artists more, and not in a. I think one of the issues with Bandcamp can be there's only so far you can go if an artist is saying to their fans, please support me. Like if an average fan might not want to spend more money on their music than they need to, like if they, supporting them through Bandcamp rather than Spotify. So yeah, we're just trying to think of creative ways to address those issues.
Yeah, I think, and then the other thing we've been talking about recently is the lack of diversity in the music industry, and especially at the top, where people who run companies are white men or women, mostly men, and that definitely needs to change. So we've been talking about that a lot, and how we can make sure that we can get a diverse group of people right to the top of the company, and other ways as well. But I think that's something we really hope that will change in the future.
Of course.
Yeah.
I saw you guys have been doing your action mail out for every day this month. Would you tell us a bit about how the community kind of are able to contribute to that?
Yeah, I think that the actual contribution side of it almost happened by accident, because we did it. We did the first email, and then we got a few replies saying, "Oh, I love this." Well, we said kind of, if you want to get involved with our activism as a whole, just reply and let us know. And a lot of people just said, "Oh, I love this. How do I get involved with this?" And we were like, "Okay." It's actually like, I think the logic of it is that we want people to be in the habit of learning something and taking action like regularly, like over time, rather than, because obviously in the last few weeks there's been a massive like outpouring of support and sharing resources and signing petitions, which is all amazing and stuff, but it's really important that that continues on some level, just forever, basically.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of logic of it, and then when people started sending stuff in, it just made complete sense, because for everyone something kind of cuts through, I think, for everyone. Like you might read loads of stuff or take several actions, but with most people there's like one or two things that really like cut through for them. And I think the idea of people sharing those particular things that are really important to them has been really nice, and hopefully inspired lots of like learning and lots of actions amongst our audience.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that we're going to continue actioning forever. I mean, that's the plan. Yeah, we basically as white people, white men, need to be better allies, and we realised that recently.
Yeah.
Well, how can people sign up for that action mail out if they're curious about joining?
That's a good question. I think if they go in our bio, Instagram bio, during the whole month of action, it will be in there, or at least there's a newsletter in there that they can read and then subscribe at the top of that. And yeah, we need to find a way of like, well, we're archiving it as we go, and we're going to try and make that fairly presentable at some point as well. So there'll be somewhere you can find the whole month.
So Freddie, you mentioned looking into things like Spotify and these kind of streaming platforms.
Yeah.
Do you have like any models of platforms that you do think are doing like a good job in terms of ethically supporting artists? Like, as you've been doing your research, has anything come out and stuck out to you that you are kind of inspired by?
Yeah, I mean, I know we've talked about Bandcamp already, but definitely Bandcamp, like not just in the kind of way that they operate transparently, which is quite inspiring. They also, they like being on the Bandcamp website feels like you're supporting artists, which is really, really inspiring as well. Yeah. To be honest, like other than that, I think that the platform magazine type model during this time has come under a lot more scrutiny, which I think is hard on both sides, because magazines and platforms, unless they're like Boiler Room and they're doing like loads and loads of partnerships or whatever, they're also really struggling financially. So yeah, I think it's tough. I think people have got to think quite creatively about I don't know, how to support artists and how to operate a bit more transparently if they can. And yeah, Bandcamp, I guess, is the kind of shining light and kind of weird kind of exception to all this, but I'm sure that a lot of other people similar to us are looking at that and wanting to kind of emulate that. Yeah.
As you said, with Bandcamp, it is flawed because a lot of the music, a lot of the money that's buying the music is from DJs and musicians rather than from people outside the music ecosystem. So that's what we're trying to address when we come back.
Let's talk about your relationship with brands so far. I think before kind of coronavirus, it was kind of getting to like a crazy point where you kind of had to work with brands in order to survive as like a small community focused venture. How have you found working with brands so far? Are there any things that young people who are starting their own businesses should be particularly aware of or careful around when collaborating with brands?
Well, brand partnerships can go wrong, but we've always seen them as a way to do special projects that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise, and we've always made sure that they're projects that will give back to the community and support artists. We have made mistakes. What was our mistake, Freddie?
Well, we did. Yeah, we did. Let's
cut that out.
we now have to pause, don't we?
Good pause. Can't.
No, we did a partnership with a beer brand like quite early on in our kind of journey, and we were quite kind of excited about it because it felt like for the first time we might be able to support financially what we were doing. Like we were just not paying ourselves anything, and you know, everyone was just chipping in like on a voluntary basis for Keep Hush. So we got quite excited about it, and it was essentially like a very brief sponsorship deal, and I think it lasted about 3 weeks. Everyone, even like on both sides, were just like, this is just kind of weird and like it doesn't really work. So I think that was really good because it we learned very quickly about what our approach would be from then on, which was, as Fred said, like we should treat brand projects as just a way of accessing funding and investment rather than like seeing them as a means to an end, as a way to make money or the way we need to make money.
Yeah.
So then I think the next brand project we did was the Nando's one, and that was like, you know, that provided like studio time, like sound engineer, like it was hundreds of artists, well, 150 or so artists applied to be part of that project. And like at the end of the project, we did those like parties in the Nando's restaurants, which a lot of people see and think is really great, and that is really great. But before that, there was really an opportunity for a lot of artists to connect. Artists made music with each other in that project that have gone on to release like projects together after that. So yeah, I mean, that's the kind of approach that we've managed to stick to quite well since the kind of early, just like not accidental, but like sponsorship type thing that we got, and we're just like, actually, this doesn't really work for anyone.
Yeah, there's a lot of brands that come to us and just want to put on a big party, and that's never something we'll do. So yeah, brands we've worked with like generally want to invest, well, we think they do, back into our community and the music scene. It's really cool.
Yeah, it works for everyone that way. It's just better.
You do, exactly.
Okay, so we're coming towards the end. What advice would you give to artists and DJs who are like fans of Keep Hush and they want to either be featured on the platform in some way or just get involved with working with you guys?
I'd say the best way is to get involved with our Text and Chill events, which will probably be once a month when we're back. But there are open deck events, really fun, and we put up the sets onto SoundCloud. In fact, we put out application form, everyone applies, then we select people to play. We'll do a lot of those in the future. Best way to get involved.
Yeah, and even if you don't get a slot, just coming down to one of them, like they're even more relaxed, and like people like me and Fred will be there, or someone like from Keep Hush will be there to meet. We tend to work with, when we say that we're a community driven platform, like that's not a full buzzword. Like we tend to work pretty much entirely from proposals that are sent to us by artists or record labels, and we're going to be doing that even more in an even more organized way when we come back. So that's definitely something to bear in mind if you're like a DJ that wants to DJ on Keep Hush. Like the best thing would be to be part of an existing community or just a group of artists or label or putting something together. And that can be online. Like we recently did an event with More Cowbell, which is just a Facebook group of people that like techno with lots of cowbell in it, basically, like UK techno sounds. And that's just like an online community that ended up doing a physical event takeover. So get involved with lots of stuff, and yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to young people who are starting up their own company in the world of music?
Reach out to everyone who runs platforms, or everyone's willing to give advice, I find, and that's what we've done. Obviously you don't have to listen to it all, but we have all the way from the beginning have asked a lot of people for advice.
Yeah, like Liberty is really good for that. Like we've had a lot of good advice at Liberty.
Yeah.
And then stuff like watch the rest of the videos from this this conference. Like I think definitely apply for funding from Arts Council and stuff a lot earlier than we did. And follow what you're enjoying and what your like audience is telling you that they like as well. Like there's been times in the past where we've maybe tried to second guess our audience or like moved in directions and just it not worked out. So I definitely in the early days, that's such a good time to just enjoy what you're doing and build a little audience that really like what you're doing, rather than like aiming big and thinking big from the start, because that doesn't really work, I don't think.
Yeah. And going back to my point, just ask.
Yeah, ask us. And
Yeah,
get in touch with
yeah.
us.
We're not professionals, but we got some advice.
Yeah.
Made a lot of mistakes over the years.
Yeah, we've made a lot of mistakes. We can tell you what not to
We
do.
can stop you from making mistakes.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you guys for sharing your insight. And I'm excited for Keep Hush to return to the real life medium of the world. And
Yeah.
Same.
looking forward to hearing all about what you've got planned. So yeah, thanks for talking to me.
Yeah, thanks so much, Martha.
Yeah.
And thank you everyone for watching. You can keep an eye on Take Note Online for the rest of this year because we've got more stuff coming. And yeah, take care. Thanks for watching.
Bye, everyone.